Good morning. Today we'll be reading chapters 2 and 3 of The Chocolate Touch that we started yesterday. If we remember from yesterday, John Midas was our main character, and his parents and doctor felt that he ate too much candy, so they wanted him to stop eating so much candy. It was Sunday afternoon. The sun was sinking low in the sky, but the air was still quite warm. John was wandering along in the direction of Susan's house, absent-mindedly looking down at the sidewalk. So let's look at the word absent-mindedly. That means when you're lost in thought. When his eye was suddenly caught by a dully gleaming silvery gray coin lying right in his path. The coin was the size of a quarter, but even as he leaned forward eagerly to pick it up, John noticed there was something strange about it. It did not have a picture of George Washington or a picture of an eagle. On one side there was a picture of a fat boy. On the other side were the letters J.M., which was funny, John thought, because those letters happened to be his initials. Grasping the coin firmly, he ran on toward Susan's house. She liked to collect things. He thought she might be interested to know that he had the beginning of a coin collection. Although he was in the habit of going over to Susan's by the same route once or twice almost every day, this afternoon John found himself turning left where he usually turned right. I always go the same way, he thought. This time, for a change, I'm going a new way. He didn't stop to consider that you cannot go east by going west unless you go all the way around the world. Only 2 blocks along the unfamiliar street, John came to a small corner store. It was a neat red brick building with 2 big show windows. They were full of all sorts of candy. Susan was immediately, absolutely forgotten. John pressed his nose against one of the windows. He was imagining the taste of the chocolate-covered almonds and chocolate fudge on the other side of the glass when he noticed a man in a white apron standing behind the counter and beckoning to him. Okay, beckoning means to motion to come. So the man was motioning for him to come inside. John was surprised. He hadn't expected the store to be open on Sunday. Don't just stand there in the doorway, John, the man called heartily. Come on in and get some fresh, sweet, creamy chocolate. There's a special sale today. How did the man know his name? John wondered. He couldn't remember ever having seen the store before. The storekeeper saw John hesitate. The chocolate I use in my kitchen comes direct from the heart of Africa, he said. I use none but the finest ingredients, and my recipes. Well, I bet you've never had chocolates like mine before. Come on in. Thank you, John replied, walking to the counter. But you see, the trouble is, well, no money, the storekeeper asked. No money whatsoever. What have you got there in your right hand? John had forgotten the old coin in his hand. Oh, he said, this is part of my coin collection. I mean, he added more honestly, I'm going to save this coin and then get some more to make a collection. Let me have a look at it, the storekeeper said. He looked briefly at the coin. Aha! He exclaimed. Is it any good? John asked, his hopes suddenly rising. Very good, said the storekeeper. In fact, it's the only kind of money I accept, but I don't suppose that you'd want to spend it on a box. A whole box? I imagine you'd rather keep this for your coin collection than spend it on chocolate, wouldn't you? Oh, no, John said. Chocolate any day. Go ahead, then. Help yourself, the storekeeper said, pointing to a heavily laden show table piled high with large cellophane-wrapped candy boxes, all exactly alike. You mean I could have one of those? One of these? John asked, his eyes round with surprise. The candy boxes were as big as ones his father always brought home at Christmas time. Just help yourself, the storekeeper assured him. That is, unless you think it might be better to ask your mother first. She wouldn't mind, John said hastily and blushed. The storekeeper winked knowingly. I'm sure she won't, he agreed. Not in the long run, anyway. John tucked one of the large boxes under his arm, declined the storekeeper's offer to wrap it as a gift, thanked him, and hurried out of the store before there could be any question of anyone's changing his mind. The storekeeper smiled as he watched his customer hurrying away down the street. John decided that it might be sensible to enter his house quietly by way of the kitchen, with the large candy box hidden behind him. He let himself in by the back door and crept up the kitchen staircase on tiptoe toward his own room. on the top floor. Just as he was about to round the corner on the second floor to continue his way upstairs, he had to stop for a moment while his father walked by, coming along the hall from the bedroom telephone. "That was Mrs. Buttercup on the phone," Mr. Midas called to Mrs. Midas as he walked down the front stairs. "She said she was sorry John hasn't been able to get over to play with Susan this afternoon, but it was a good thing in a way, she thought, because Susan's already so excited about her birthday party tomorrow. I wonder where John can have got to." As soon as the second floor was quiet again, and John knew there was no danger that his candy box would be seen, he hurried silently up to his bedroom, pushed open the door, and slid the box under the bed. Then he walked heavily down to the living room. "Well, there you are," said Mrs. Midas. "We couldn't imagine where you had been. What have you been doing?" "Oh, just sort of playing around," John said. John usually took a long time to put his things away and undress and bathe and get ready for bed, for he thought sleeping was a waste of time. But this evening he started yawning long before his usual bedtime. Ho, hum, sleepy," John announced. "All right," said Mrs. Midas, "you better be getting to bed. Time for your tonic." John's tonic came in a bottle. It had been prescribed by Dr. Cranium. John had to drink a big spoonful every night to make up for all the vegetables and fruit that he left on his plate at lunch and dinner. The tonic tasted like soap, mud, glue, ink, and paint. It tasted horrible. Much to Mrs. Midas' surprise, John ran ahead of her to the dining room cupboard, where the tonic and the tonic spoon were kept. By the time she got there, he had already filled the spoon. Then, without any coaxing, he emptied it into his mouth. "Ugh," John spluttered. "Ugh, blah." "That's a very good boy," Mrs. Midas said. "Now, why can't you be sensible and eat up your nice dinner that way? If you'd only stop eating so much candy, you'd be able to eat your meals properly, and you wouldn't need to take the tonic." Soon John was scrubbed and in his pajamas and in bed, ready to be tucked in for the night. Mrs. Midas sat on the bed and stroked his forehead for a moment. Then she leaned forward and kissed his cheek. John, pretending that he was very sleepy, shut his eyes and began breathing deeply. When Mrs. Midas joined Mr. Midas in the living room, she said, "I've never known John to be so good about going to bed before. He went to sleep in no time." A few seconds after the bedroom door had closed behind his mother, John leaped to the floor, got down on his hands and knees, and felt under the bed for the candy box. He soon had it on the pillow and set to work unfastening it. First, he took off the thin outer sheet of cellophane. Then he lifted off the lid. Then he removed a sheet of cardboard. Then he pulled off a square of heavy tin foil. Then he took out a layer of shredded paper. As the wrappings piled up around him, John became rather anxious. At last he came to a small central ball of cotton batting, and there, right in the middle, was a little golden ball. He picked at the ball with his fingernail and peeled away the gold paper, revealing a tiny piece of plain chocolate. It was the only piece of chocolate in the whole box. Deeply disappointed, John nevertheless put it into his mouth. He had never tasted a chocolate quite like it. It was the most chocolatey chocolate he had ever encountered. And encountered means came across, met. It's like when you meet something. Chapter 3. The birds were chirping in the tree outside John's window, and the sky beyond was deep blue. The bedroom door opened a few inches. "Hey, Sleepy," Mrs. Midas called. "Everyone else is up." John put on his bathrobe and slippers and ambled to the bathroom. His sister Mary was still brushing her teeth, and he had to wait until she finished. "Come on, Mary," he said a little crossly. "Don't take all morning." "Here you are," Mary said, handing him the toothpaste tube. While Mary soaped her face, John squeezed a little of the toothpaste onto his brush. The paste was pink. John made a face at his toothbrush. It didn't seem fair that he should have to brush his teeth with stuff that tasted just like his tonic. A stinky taste, he called it. John opened his mouth and pushed in the end of the toothbrush. As soon as it touched his front teeth, he noticed a delicious sweetness in his mouth, a taste of the best kind of chocolate. He pushed the brush to and fro, and the taste seemed to grow stronger. He removed the brush. The bristles were brown. "What kind of toothpaste is this?" John asked. Mary was drying her face. "The same kind," she answered. "It says on the tube." "Blancodent," John read. It was the same kind they had always had. "Why is it chocolate flavored this time?" he asked. "Boy, it's good." "Silly," Mary said. "Of course it isn't chocolate." She hung up her towel and swished out of the bathroom. John squeezed some more toothpaste onto the brush and continued to brush his teeth. Chocolate again. It was marvelous. Rich, sweet, smooth chocolate, chocolatey chocolate, like the single piece of chocolate from the box the night before. There seemed to be no further need for the toothbrush, so John rinsed it and hung it up. He squeezed out another bit of toothpaste onto a fingertip this time. He put his finger in his mouth and ate the toothpaste off. When he took his finger out again, it was stained chocolate brown. John wasted no more time. He put the end of the toothpaste tube into his mouth and emptied the paste onto his tongue. It squeezed out like thick, creamy chocolate. Mary looked into the bathroom. "Hey, what are you doing?" she demanded. "Yummy," was all John said. John and Mary were a little late getting to the dining room, and Mr. Midas was already on the way to his train when they sat down at the breakfast table. "John ate up all the toothpaste," Mary told their mother. "Oh, you sneak," John whispered. "Well, you did," Mary reminded him, "and that's a waste. Isn't it a waste, Mother, to eat up all the toothpaste in one day?" Mrs. Midas was serving the orange juice. "Mary, really," she said, "I'm sure John was only joking. He must have been pretending to eat the toothpaste." "No, he wasn't," Mary insisted. "I was watching, and I saw him squeeze it right into his mouth. He said it was chocolate." "Oh, dear," protested Mrs. Midas. "Chocolate again? Now I know it was just a joke. He just wished it were chocolate." "Mary, come out. Come now, drink up your orange juice, both of you. Your bacon and eggs will be ready in a minute." As Mrs. Midas left the room, John took up his glass of orange juice and put it to his lips. As soon as he tilted it and the liquid began to flow into his mouth, a happy look came to his eyes. "Boy, that's good," he said at last, lowering the empty glass. "Chocolate juice." Mary looked at John, then she looked at her glass of orange juice. It was a bright orange color. She tasted it. It tasted like orange to her. "It's not chocolate juice," she said. "It's orange juice. Orange juice is good for you." "Yes, John," Mrs. Midas said, hearing the last few words as she carried the tray of bacon and eggs. "You must drink your—" She caught sight of John's empty glass. "John," she said, you good boy. That's the first time in ages you've finished your orange juice without having to be told." "It tasted of chocolate," John explained. "All right," Mrs. Midas said. "Very funny, but don't tease Mary too much. Remember, Mary's younger than you are." John silently picked up his fork and sliced the yolk of his fried egg. The yellow broke over the white, and he shivered as he watched it, as he always did. "I can't eat this," he told his mother. "Of course you can," Mrs. Midas said. "You drank your orange juice. Try to eat your bacon and egg." John scraped up a small piece of egg and put it into his mouth. It immediately became chocolate white and chocolate yolk. Both lovely, lovely chocolate. John mumbled. Chocolate egg. In almost no time, he had finished every scrap of egg on his plate. Then he tried the bacon. The bacon turned to chocolate, too. John had never before enjoyed his breakfast so much. After the orange juice that had turned to chocolate juice in his mouth and the fried bacon and egg that had turned to fried chocolate, he ate 2 slices of chocolate toast with chocolate butter and chocolate marmalade, washed down with a glass of chocolate milk. "I'm very pleased with you this morning," Mrs. Midas said as she helped John on with his coat. "If you promise to eat your lunch at school as well as you ate your breakfast, I'll give you a dime to buy some chocolates with." "Oh, that's all right," John said. "I don't think I'll need it." Mrs. Midas looked puzzled as she waved goodbye. Okay, so we officially have another character now, which is Mary. Mary started talking and was a part of the chapter. So Mary has now joined our list of characters with John, Mom, Dad, and Dr. Cranium. So we have 5 characters now in our story. Our settings really haven't changed. He did stop at a store. We could add that in, but for the most part, it's still the story is taking place mostly at John's house. We did have 3 vocabulary words. We had absent-mindedly, which means lost in thought, beckoning, which means motion to come, and then encountered, which means came across and met. So you are going to go answer the questions on this story now.